Shalom and welcome to you all to ILTV, once again here in Tel Aviv, broadcasting to all over the world. Today we have a couple of subjects. My name is Ram Shmueli. I was a Brigadier General, a fighter pilot in the Israeli Air Force, and I am the chairperson of Irgun HaShomer HaChadash organization, The New Guardian. To me today, welcome Knesset member Musi Raz, Parliament member, and we would like to discuss with you a couple of subjects today, and we will start with the Trump peace initiative. There was a lot of curiosity in the last 2 years. What plan, what deal, because Trump is a businessman, what deal he is planning for the Middle East? Like all the other presidents that try to make a deal or an agreement or a negotiation between the Israelis and the Palestinians. The issue is that if you're looking for the last 70 years, there were many presidents and prime ministers that tried to resolve the Israeli-Palestinian dispute. And what characterized all those initiatives and attempts to make a solution or a peace agreement in the Middle East among the Palestinians and the Israelis was always discussing what will happen between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea. Since we agreed that those people, Ben-Gurion and Rabin, and Begin on the Israeli side, and the people from the United States, President Nixon, and then Carter, and Clinton, and of course Obama, and now Trump, they are very smart people, and there is no solution yet. My perspective about the dispute, that as long as we are going to discuss only what will happen between the Palestinians and the Israelis, between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean, it's a waste of time. I believe that we have to think out of the box and to take all the partners in the Middle East, because all the partners, not only the Israelis and the Palestinians, are suffering what's happening between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean. I believe we have to think differently. If Trump, that we don't know his plan, is thinking out of the box, maybe there will be a kind of a future for this region. But if he's still trying to divide the land between the Israelis and the Palestinians, there is no chance. As long as my point of view, we are not going to give up on making two-state solution, because there is no solution like that.
Okay, of course, I cannot agree with you. I am supporting solutions out of the box, but I do remember that we are occupying millions of Palestinians. And the applications of the occupation we can see every day. We can see casualties among Palestinians and among Israelis, but of course not in the same number. If we talk about 2018, for example, 290 Palestinians were killed, 15 Israelis were killed, and 30,000 Palestinians were injured. 30,000. Around 200 and something Israelis were injured. So people
are
paying...
Do you include the Gaza Strip as well?
Of course. So people are paying a price every day. If we take even this year, in the first 16 days of this year, 17 houses were demolished. And again we see the violence. So we must bring an end to the occupation. It has no connection to the Arab states. It has no connection to the world. This is an occupation that must be stopped. If you want, I don't want, but if you want to occupy, if you want to annex the West Bank, okay, let them vote. Let them have the same rights and obligations like the Israelis. But while they don't have the freedom of movement, while they don't have any freedom, while the army and the police is shooting them, it will not last a lot. Even if it lasts 50 years, it will not go on. Now, in the future, in the past, like you mentioned, there were tries, but basically, in 1947, the UN decided, there was a UN resolution to divide the country to a Jewish state and an Arab state.
And who doesn't
Exactly. And
agree?
the Arabs did not agree, and they were punished. They were punished for 72 years now. Many of them, hundreds of thousands of them, were deported. More than 400 villages were destroyed. And nobody now even suggests, and they don't even claim the land, the 45% of the land that they got in 1947. But now the opposite is happening. Now Israel is violating the UN resolutions, and the UN resolutions are not giving us...
But let me challenge you. Let me challenge you. Let's say that tomorrow morning, someone in Israel, I don't believe, but let's pretend that someone in Israel will decides to approve a situation of 19% of the area to the Palestinian and 10% to the Israeli. Let's assume one solution.
They
okay?
will not agree.
They will not agree. So
because
it is according to the last 70 years, they don't agree.
You're like a thief who actually stole something and now want to steal something more. Basically, the UN resolution in 47 gave the Jews that were the minority in this country 55% of the land. And now everybody says, okay, Israel will get 78%. But you say, no, 78 is not enough. In spite of the fact that we are more or less the same number of people, I want more than 78. It will not happen. And if you even claim that, this is the proof that you don't want peace at all. You just want to steal lands. And the fact that there was no even one prime minister in Israel until today who said, okay, I agree to 67 borders. This is what the UN said, this is what the Arab League said, this is what US said. The fact that there was even not one says
it's good
that we don't want peace.
You just proved my first statement, that the solution
that you don't want peace.
That no, it's I really don't. I really want peace, but the solution.
To be your slaves that you can shoot every day.
I have a different solution. As long as we will dispute between two-state solution on one hand or one-state solution on the other hand, we'll never find an agreement. Let me challenge you a question. Do you think that the people who live in Gaza are the same nation that the people who live in Judea and Samaria? I assume that they are not. They can't agree on anything. So maybe
your assumption is not right, but I have a question for you.
Okay.
Do you think that the Israelis who live in Fachem are the same like Israelis who came yesterday from Russia and are citizens of this state?
There is one different. You know what is the difference? If you live in the
Okay, our next subject is the question of TIF. TIF is the Temporary International Presence in Hebron. This international presence, international force, was actually came to Hebron a few days or few weeks after the massacre that Baruch Goldstein, a settler, a Jewish settler, made in February 25th, 1994, in the city of Hebron, and actually assassinated 29 Palestinians where they were praying in the mosque, and injured, I think, more than 100 others. He was killed by the demonstrators after he killed 29 people. Then there was a lot of discussion in Israel. Of course, many people in Israel understood that the settlers in Hebron is a problem to the state of Israel. They damage the security of the Israelis. They attack soldiers of course not all of them, but on daily basis. Few of them attack soldiers every day. And of course, attack Palestinian civilians. And this international force was invited. And of course, now there are claims, like on every force, that they use their force for negative activities. Sometimes I think that even in one case they attacked a settler, and in other times there are claims that they make provocations. And I wanted to ask you, actually, you know and you understand that the settlers in Hebron is a real threat to Israel. And what do you think about this internationally person?
According to the history of the last couple of tens of years in the Middle East, the only force that approve the best security for prayers from all the religion is Israeli armed forces. Even the sad story about the 29 prayers who were massacred by a Jewish madman. Nevertheless, if you count those 29 people who died by this madman, you can find more than 1,000 that died in 2000 by Palestinian. The only place,
1,000
in the Intifada number 2. A lot of massacres.
But you have, of course, to remember that in this Intifada, 1,000 Israelis were killed, but 14,000 Palestinians. You ignore this fact. It was not a massacre.
No. Let me finish about the fact approved, both in the holy place of Jerusalem and even in Hebron. Beside this occurrence that happened in 1994, we are the best to make secure for every different religion, both Jews, Christians, and Muslims. So this is
we
why
are the only one. I mean,
this is one I
you
oppose.
compare Israel to which state? We are the only one.
To the times of the Turks that have been here.
The Turks were here 400 years, and no Jews were killed. Very few in the last years of their presence.
Let me to the
They
time
were
of the
400
Brits.
years.
How many people Jews massacred in Hebron in 1929?
69.
69. So I know for sure
but
by
you have
numbers,
to remember that in the same year, in the same events, more Palestinians were killed than
yes,
Jews.
but the massacre, if you're
The
talking
massacre
about
was
massacre,
against the Jews,
was
right?
So nobody can secure Jewish prayer, only Israelis.
Okay, but who can secure Palestinians?
This is our obligation to do so, and even that
but we killed 14,000 Palestinians in the last 18 years.
Even though we failed about this occurrence in 1994, they put an international to international force. This is not the way to solve it, because we are the only ones that can do it.
But here is my question. How many Palestinians were killed by the Israeli army in the last 4 years?
Yes, but you
in
mix,
the last 5 years.
But you mix. There is a war between the Palestinians and the Israelis. There is a war.
I don't mix. If one come to the fence, it's not a war. It's a demonstration.
Now
how can you call it a war
when you kill
a child 4 years old?
Judea and Samaria, there is a war between the extremists from their side and the Israeli armed forces. And this fighting, once they killed, like they have done a week ago, they killed Israelis, and once soldiers killed those territories.
Who was killed a week ago?
A week ago there was a shooting in intersection of Ra, 2 weeks ago, okay?
Few ago.
2 weeks ago. So the issue is that there is a war between the extremists, I'm not talking about all the population, and between the Israeli armed forces who
and
try
why
to...
do they use force? Not because we are occupying power?
Because they are terrorists. Yes, because they are terrorists.
Okay, but I have to remind you that our leaders, when we had here the British mandate, or for me it's British occupation, have made the same, including killing Jews. I mean, Menachem Begin, who was later the Prime Minister of Israel, he was, he made a lot of terror organizations. He blew up the King David Hotel with tens of Jews, Palestinians, and Brits who were killed. He sent people to blow up.
But luckily, we have the State of Israel, and we are obligated, the international community, on one hand, to secure our people. On the other hand, we are obligated to free worship for all the religion in Jerusalem and in Hebron. And I visited Hebron a couple of weeks ago, and you've been there also.
But you know
there
better
are two
than
places. We can't ignore the good things that are happening in the Middle East. Some of them are rumors that we don't know what will happen about the future, but we know about the past. In the last couple of years, there are a lot of Arab states, not only Egypt that we have a peace agreement and Jordan that we have a peace agreement with them and a good relationship, but also Oman and other countries that we have official or underground relationship with Saudi Arabia and other countries. So it's a good diplomacy that's happening, and this is connected to the first subject that we discussed about the peace agreement or the peace plan of Trump. I believe that once those countries ignore Israel because they said, you solved the Palestinian problem and then we will talk with you. Now they talk with us and we didn't solve the Palestinian problem. So I believe that if we see the Middle East as a whole, we can find a solution not only for the Palestinian-Israeli dispute, but we can find to be among the nations in the Middle East. I'm very optimistic what's happening now.
First, I think that a few good things are happening, and yes, I think that more and more people in the Arab world accept Israel. Still, majority of people in the Arab world, and not only in the Arab world, and this is the new thing in Europe and yes, many even in North America, not majority, think that Israel has to bring immediate end to the occupation, because this is a violation of human rights. This is something that a military thing. And I'm not saying, of course, there are states that are even worse than Israel. Yeah, no question about that. I'm not saying that Israel is so worse, but the fact that we are a Western state, we claim that we are democracy, which is partly true, not 100%, but we still make this occupation every day is not moral. Damaging our security, we saw that, but it's not moral too. And the problem is, I'm happy. I am really happy. I'm not that, I cannot tell you, Saudi Arabia. No, I'm happy about every new relations that we have with every state, even if the regime in this state is not democratic, even if this regime is corrupted, even if this regime is a regime of people who assassinate everything. But for me, good relations with the democratic world, with the democratic states, and with their nations is important even more. And I feel that we are less supported by those states and those nations. And this is a problem for us that I think that you should admit that this is a problem that we have to deal with.
I think that if French or Germany doesn't like that we have new relationship with the Arab world, which I think they like it, I doesn't care less about their opinion if I think that we live in the Middle East. We are among nations. I always compare ourselves to Singapore. Singapore and Lee Kuan Yew, the leader, the Ben Gurion of Singapore, he realized that we are Chinese minority in a region of Muslim world. And he put himself as a nation, a man nation. Also, we are very prosperous and we are Chinese, but we support other countries. I believe that if we will be smart enough, we can play the same role like Singapore in the region. So this is the whole kind of diplomacy that I'm talking about. Yes, the situation with the Palestinians is not easy. The bias about the European countries that look at us in a kind of very critical way. I just want to disagree with you about the issue of occupied territories. Back in 1993, we gave autonomy to those people. My son is in an infantry, and he get inside this autonomy. Why he go to this autonomy? I don't like him to go to this autonomy. Why he goes there? Because he helped the Palestinian Authority, and he is doing it every night. And you are infantry men, so you know what I'm talking about. He's going every night to Shechem in order to help the Palestinian Authority to protect against terrorist cells among them. So the issue is not kind of an occupied, like you can remember or think the Israelis are the occupier, what they do there. Sometimes we get inside the autonomy, which is kind of a state, because they ask us to go. this is not a real occupation, and more than that, if you're Palestinian and you live in Judea and Samaria, you can go abroad, you have a passport, yeah, of course.
Difficult.
You can go abroad,
First,
you don't have to get a permission for Israel, but you have to go through gate checks.
First, okay, you said so many things that I want to react. First, I would say, for me, we don't live in the Middle East. Middle East is a term that was termed by Europeans and by Americans that say Middle East and Far East. If you say Middle East, it's if you are in Europe. I live here in this region. This region, you can say West Asia, you can say the Arab world. We live in the Arab world, and I like what you have said. Yes, we have 6 million or 7 million Jews here in Arab world of 600 million Arabs, and we have to live with them. And what you have said about the Palestinians, yes, there is an autonomy. There is an autonomy, but most of the Palestinian lands are still. I wanted to say a good word for my friend, Dr. Falah Samara. Dr. Falah Samara is a Palestinian Israeli citizen. A Palestinian Israeli citizen who is the first Palestinian citizen in Israel who donate money to the Olympic Games. And actually, he is the sponsor of one of the Israeli teams, Jews and Arabs, to the Olympic. And I believe and hope that many Palestinian and Jewish citizens of this state will follow him.
I want to say a good word to the community in Toronto. The community in Toronto invests a lot of effort and money on many projects in Israel, in Eilat, and Ashdod, and Bat Yam, and Ramle, and Tzfat. And every time I meet those projects and those people who are so enthusiastic to support the state of Israel, I feel that we are among a big nation of Jews that live in here and overseas. I'm very happy about those people who feel obligated to support the state of Israel, the only Jewish state that we have.
This is all for today. Thank you for watching us in Israeli Frenemies. Thank you, Mom.
Thank you, Musi.